Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Feed podcast. We're here after the ICC T20 World Cup just keeps on continuing, and we are into the end game of it. So, to discuss about that and more, I've got with me Yash. So, how was your week? Because I know it was quite a special one.
Yeah, it's. I was just discussing with you that it felt like a very long week because I had a couple of very important examinations. So I was very busy with my preparations for it, but it's over now and I can't wait for the business end of this ICC T20 World Cup.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it back because it is indeed a very exciting stage of the World Cup. So we've got, at the time of recording, 3 games left and
Yeah.
2 spots for the semi-finals still open, which is exactly the scenario I would have liked because you don't want any dead rubbers. So
And and the best part is that the last game will decide the final spot. So you're not going to have a single dead rubber, which is amazing.
yeah, and I didn't really want India to be still fighting for that spot, but we have
Yeah.
come a long way from declaring India as the straightforward favorites to them playing a virtual knockout. So, before we move on to the future of this tournament, let us talk about what happened in the
Yeah.
Super 8s. So, I think the last time we recorded, the Super 8s hadn't begun, so we couldn't talk about India's loss to South Africa either. So nobody saw that coming, definitely. And not just the fact that India lost, but the manner in which they lost. They were completely outclassed.
Yeah.
So, do you think that will have an impact in the future in this tournament, or have India kind of managed to sweep that under the rug for now?
I think I actually have a very interesting answer to this question because usually in T20 games, the good teams lose matches either because they've had a bad day or because the other team played exceptionally well and just blew you away. I think the India game versus South Africa, both these things happened because I think India were in a leading position when they had dismissed the top three batters very quickly for South Africa. And after that, we threw the match away. Our bowling wasn't up to the mark in the middle overs, although we did try and pull it back a bit at the end, but 180 was always a very high total. And then our batting, everybody looked out of form, especially Abhishek. He was just swinging the bat wildly. He got a lot of balls to play, which is why he showed how out of form he was. But then also throughout the batting order, nobody really got going, and we lost by a huge margin. But the only good thing is that I think this will happen only once in this tournament, where nothing is going right for you, and it's good that it happened in the Super 8s as I had predicted. I was expecting a loss, and it happened.
Yeah, so the prediction game has been quite strong from you. If you remember, my prediction about Australia hanging on and getting past Zimbabwe also failed, and
Yeah,
I just went through my predictions for the semi-finals, and I had predicted India and West Indies to qualify, and they are playing for the remaining 1 spot, so one of them won't make it. And I'd also predicted New Zealand and Pakistan to make it, and now they are also fighting for the 1 spot. So, talking about the 1 spot which is already captured in Group 1, it is South Africa, and I think they've been the best team of this tournament, and they've also defeated the best team in order to become the best, so it makes sense. And then on the other side, you've got England, who were technically the first team to qualify for the semi finals,
yeah,
and I just haven't seen them play a complete game yet. So it's weird how they have managed to kind of escape the Sri Lanka leg, considering that was going to be the biggest challenge, and now they're potentially back to playing in India, which I think makes them a very strong contender for the title now.
Yeah, I know this reference might annoy you and a few other fans, but this campaign from England really reminds me of the 2019 IPL campaign from CSK, where throughout the tournament, the entire batting order was always flopped, and there was only one player who was doing well every game. And somehow they still managed to win games and make it to the final. But throughout the tournament, everybody knew that they're not the best side. And it's quite similar with England. You can clearly see weaknesses there. I've never even watched an entire England game, but and I still know that players like Josh Butler, Phil Salt haven't done their best. So that's one good thing for them maybe, because if these players come to the party, then they'll become much better. But the fact that they've reached the playoffs at the semi-finals now, it's a huge compliment and well done to them.
Yeah, and we have seen a record breaking campaign from Will Jacks. He's won
Yeah,
4 Player of the Match awards in this World Cup alone, which is already, I think, more than 99% of the players who have played the T20 World Cup ever. I think Virat
yeah,
Kohli has the most, which is 8 in 35 games, and Will Jacks
yeah,
is on 4 in just 10 games, which is incredible.
yeah,
And he's
and
done it
I think
with both the batting and the bowling.
exactly. And he's also now on par with the record for most player of the tournament awards in a single event. I think Shane Watson won 4 back in 2012. So now, if he gets one more, then it will be a new record for him.
Yeah, and he will most likely play his next game at his home ground in India, which is the Wankhede. But we'll move on to that in a bit because it's still not clear. The one spot left could drastically shift the venues as well because you've got Pakistan still in contention, as always, hanging by their nails. So the scenario for them, which at the time of recording is tomorrow, and most probably the game would have already started by the time we upload this, but
Yeah,
you've got Pakistan take on Sri Lanka in Colombo, in Palikele, my bad. And the scenario for them to qualify now over New Zealand is to, if they're bowling first, then to chase their target in 13.1 overs, which is alarmingly close to what the Mumbai Indians had to do back in 2014.
yeah.
And then, if they're batting first, win by 70 odd runs.
I think, yeah,
So,
about 60, 65 runs.
yeah,
Yeah, it is. I don't think it's unrealistic, which is the good thing. It's not you have to win by 150 runs or something. But I think, given how Pakistan have gone, they haven't really been very aggressive. I've never seen them score 250 runs or bundle up the opposition for like 55, not 55, but like less than 100 runs. They always like to play a calm level of cricket, and their matches are usually decided towards the end. So I think it's a bit unrealistic for Pakistan, but in terms of today's T20 cricket, it can happen.
yeah. And I think if you're going to chase as Pakistan, it will be even harder because you have seen the pitch slows down drastically, and if you're chasing around 160 or 165 in 13 overs, it's going to be really hard. So their best shot is at batting first, scoring around 175 to 180, and then restricting Sri Lanka to 120, because considering the form of Sri Lankan batters in the Super 8s at least, where they have hardly crossed 100, I think, in both the games. So that could be their only realistic chance.
Yeah, I agree. But even if Pakistan qualify, they will play South Africa because in both the groups, the top teams have already been decided. So England will play either India or West Indies at Wankhede. And for South Africa, it's going to be funny because if Pakistan qualify, then they travel to Sri Lanka. Otherwise, they stay in Eden Gardens. So they'll be praying that they get to remain in India and play in similar conditions.
Yeah, it would be quite hilarious if they played their entire tournament in Ahmedabad and then end up traveling for the semis and get knocked out in Colombo because they've absolutely got no experience playing there. Because
Yeah,
if Pakistan make it through, then I think they have got fair shot at the title because they will continue to play in Colombo, which is a big
yeah.
advantage. And in knockouts, I think they can really exploit that advantage to the fullest. But before that, they do have to qualify. So that's the game coming up tomorrow, and then you've got a double header on Sunday. Of course, Zimbabwe South Africa is kind of a dead rubber, but if Zimbabwe, I've read this somewhere, if they manage to win by around 140 runs or chase it in 8 overs or something, they can manage to give a chance to India or West Indies to finish as the table toppers on net run rate. So definitely a very very far cry. So I would treat that as a dead rubber, and then you've got the Sunday evening clash between India and West Indies in Kolkata, and I think it will be one of the most hyped World T20 games in a while. Even considering the previous knockouts and finals and whatever, I don't remember such a exciting contest in quite a while.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think West Indies are playing their best cricket. I've never seen them, or in the last few years, I've never seen so many people hyping them up. Because historically, they have had a decent bunch of players, but usually they don't really come to the party together. But that's exactly what's happened this time. And the more interesting thing for me is the venue, because both the teams have an excellent record at Eden Gardens. I think India have never lost a T20 versus the West Indies at Eden Gardens, but at the same time, West Indies have never lost a World Cup game at the Eden Gardens. I think they've only played two or three, but they have won all of them. So it's a very exciting contest in that sense.
Yeah, mind goes straight to that epic final from 2016,
Yeah.
which was played there. So I am actually, more than their batting, kind of worried for India's batting against the spin, potentially the spin trio of Moti, Chase, and Akil Hussain. I think these three finger spinners cover all bases for West Indies in terms of spin. And seeing how India have fared against spin, especially recently, I would hope that Eden Gardens isn't a very tricky wicket, because to be very honest, I don't trust the Indian batters anymore, and I would rather have a flat pitch and have India outbat the West Indian power hitters. I trust that scenario to come out well for India more than the Indian batters kind of tackling the spin challenge.
Yeah, that's what's happened because we've been spoiled over the past 2 years. But I have a counter argument to that. To your point about the finger spinners, don't they have like aren't most of them left arm off spinners? And since we have, I think literally six left-handers, I think out of our eight batters, shouldn't we be able to cope with that much better than other teams? So, do you know something that I don't know? Because you made this point,
Yes,
Aaron.
uh, that is. I'm very glad you brought that up, because West Indies, the spin attack is a complete outlier in that aspect. Akil Hussain, his top ball is the arm ball, which is the one that comes into the a right-hander and has the potential of leaving the left-hander. And the other thing is he bowls with a new ball and swings it. So that is a
Oh,
completely different challenge. Something that Mahesh Theekshana used to do at his prime, if you remember.
yeah.
He can also pull it off, and he's been doing it in this tournament. And of course, Gudakesh Moti, he bowls leg spin to left-handers, which is also a
Oh,
threat that you don't expect to face. So he's been developing it over the past year and a half, and I've seen it go very badly for him in games, but over the last 6 months, I would say he's kind of mastered it, and now he has got enough control for him to try and bowl that to the Indian batters. So that is a unique challenge, and that is why I said that they cover all bases. There are just three of them, but I think they'll be more than handy in Kolkata. And pair that with the slow, sticky bowling of Jason Holder and Romario Shepherd, and the pace of Shamar Joseph. So I think they can be quite a difficult bowling attack to face, especially in Kolkata. But having said that, the death bowling is still very bad, and we have been saying that they will be found out. So maybe Sunday is the night.
yeah. Uh, I think today as well, uh, it wasn't the best performance from them. Was it today or was it yesterday? I'm not sure. When they lost
Yesterday.
against South Africa, because that was one hammering. And I think the Indian batters should kind of take a look at how South Africa approached with the bat, because I think they chased down 170 odd runs in like less than 18 overs, which was quite a hammering. So, what are your thoughts about that? Was it just a pitch, or did West Indies fail to bowl in the right areas?
Yeah, so that was quite an interesting game because West Indies began very aggressively and kind of lost. I remember they lost 2 wickets each in the third and the fourth over and were four down, and still they did not consolidate. So that tells me that the pitch was good, and that's what they analyzed, and they realized that if they consolidate and then build later on, they will anyways be falling short on runs. So they just kept going, and at one stage they were 80 for 7. Then they
Yeah.
really had to consolidate, so they took a few overs, and then Holder and Shefford still took them to 178. So I think they were right in trying kind of slowing down when you're 7 down, but that is also where they eventually lost the game because they fell
Yeah.
short by easily 30 odd runs. So the pitch was very good for batting, and I think with their total on the board and the start South Africa got, they were never really able to build pressure, and that's why I feel the bowling kind of just lagged. But they did try, but South Africa were too good. So I wouldn't say that the bowling was the issue there. It was more to do with the conditions and the lack of runs on the board.
Okay, that's good to know because I completely missed that match. And I was actually surprised to see the scorecard. So this puts a lot of perspective in for me. So now, if I think the big decision for India, or like whoever wins the toss on that day, is whether you want to bat first or bowl first, because India have lost a match when they were chasing, but still in modern T20 cricket you would like to chase because it gives you a bit more control. But in this big game, which is virtually a quarter final, if Rohit Sharma was the captain, I would back him to bat first. But with Surya Kumar Yadav and Gautam Gambhir, what do you think they will do? And in your opinion, what should one do, given the stadium and the dew factor and all of that?
Yeah, so they've played 6 games in this tournament so far, and they've batted first 5 times and they've won those 5, and they've chased once and they lost. So though that stat kind of tells you to obviously bat first, but you have to also factor in that the only time they batted second was against the best team in this tournament and in conditions that favored that team the most. So
Yeah.
it's kind of difficult to say, because leading up to the World Cup, India were quite good at chasing, and then in the World Cup, they haven't really gotten a chance to do that. So I feel at the
Just
moment,
just one point here. You say that India were very good at chasing, but I think out of the last four losses that we've had in the recent few T20 games, all of them have come while chasing. I think we lost against Australia in Australia, then we lost against New Zealand maybe, then one
yeah,
match against South Africa, and then the one again against South Africa in the World Cup. So we are not as confident when it comes to chasing, because if it's a big total, then it's very difficult to play with this aggressive brand that we usually do when we're batting first. Yeah, now you can continue.
yeah. So we did lose those games, but in the same time frame, we also won. We also chased 160 in 10 overs against New Zealand, and then we had a 200 plus chase in 15 overs, just two down. So we have had a few of those wins as well, and especially that game against New Zealand where we chased around 210 in 15 overs.
Yeah,
We were, I think, 10 for 2 there, and then Ishan Kishan and Surya Kumar kind of took off. So we have been under that pressure, but of course, World Cup is different pressure altogether.
yeah,
But I feel with the kind of momentum they have batting first and due not playing such a big part, uh, I feel it will in Kolkata, but I think India will prefer to bat first, because they have the hang of it, and I think that would suit them more.
yeah. I also agree with you. India should bat first. I think a total above 180 will be very difficult to chase, and especially given that West Indies also like to play this aggressive brand of cricket with the kind of spinners that we have. If we can put some pressure on them, then it's just going to keep ramping up, and they might eventually just try to score runs of every ball and lose wickets, like we lost in against South Africa. So, given that the due factor won't be as much as the rest of the year, it's not a let's say compulsory decision to bat second. So we can actually genuinely look at
Yeah,
batting first.
yeah, it's not going to be like the IPL where it's a
Yeah,
no-brainer to win the toss and bowl. But also a thing to consider is this is the first day-night game at Kolkata this in the World Cup. So
Hmm.
we have only had morning and day games so far. So we have got no idea how the pitch kind of plays in the night and if the dew
Yeah,
actually will come in. So I would actually like to see India lose the toss and just leave it to West Indies to make the
yeah,
decision, because at
yeah.
this point you're kind of happy to do whatever. Uh, so
Yeah, uh, that's about India and West Indies. This one is happening on Sunday, but as we said before that, tomorrow it's Pakistan versus Sri Lanka, and it's quite funny because Sri Lanka are the host, but if they win this match, then they go to India to play the semi-final. If they qualify, I don't think they're even qualifying, so they're kind of out. But they now basically can just spoil the party for Pakistan. So in terms of their batting, they haven't really had the best two games. Obviously, the match against New Zealand got washed out, but the match against England, Pakistan, they didn't really look that good with the bat. So what do you think they should change? Is it just about rotating their batters, or should they bring someone who's outside the team right now?
yeah, so Pakistan have baffled me the most with their selection, because they're literally carrying Babar Azam on this side for a situation in which he has failed consistently, but they still want him to be present for that situation, which is in the case of early wickets or collapse at the top. They want him to stabilize, except that he hasn't been good at that as well. So they don't expect him to come out to bat even when things are going well for them. So they could at this point easily drop him and play an extra bowler, because this anyways bat till number 10 with Shaheen Shah Afridi coming in at 10, who in any other side would easily slot in at even number 8. So it doesn't make any sense. And considering it's also unfortunate for them that no one except for Sahibzada Farhan has been in any form. So he's been literally carrying this batting. He scored the most runs, I think, and they would desperately want one of Saim Ayub or Fakhar Zaman, who they've included, to come good. So if I were Pakistan, I would drop Babar Azam and get back uh, either one of Abrar Ahmed or Fahim Ashraf. Even Fahim Ashraf, I don't see him being very handy with the ball. So he can play the role of Babar Azam actually. He's not that bad a batter. So you can kind of have Farhan and Ayub to open, Aga at 3, and Fakhar at 4, Usman at 5. So that is still quite good. And then have your all-rounders in Shadab, Nawaz, Fahim and Shaheen, and then have another Usman Tariq. So you still have got about 7 bowling options, and still quite a deep batting with Shaheen coming in at 9 still, which is very good. So I don't understand why they haven't gone with this, and why there is baggage that they want to carry with in terms of Babar Azam.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with this. I have been looking at a few famous Pakistani YouTubers, and they've also shared a very similar opinion. It's a do or die match for them, and like we discussed earlier, it's not. It's a game that they'll have to play a bit differently than the last few games. So, do you think they've got this, or do you think it's a bit too much to ask from this Pakistan side?
I think nothing is always away, nothing is too away from this Pakistan side, because of just the aura that they carry. You never know when they turn up, and
Yeah,
I would say it is just within their reach. If it was anything more in terms of net run rate, it would have really been difficult if they had to chase it in 10 overs or win by 100 runs. So
yeah,
I wouldn't rule them out, considering they're playing Sri Lanka, and a very, very underconfident Sri Lanka. So I can actually see them qualify. But I also feel that if they have to chase, then it's going to be very difficult,
yeah,
because the pitch in Palekere does get slow, and it won't be easy to chase anything in 13 overs then. So the best shot is to kind of bat first and hope that all the bowlers, and I would actually then play the extra bowler, because then you have the luxury of not having to use a part-timer and actually have another genuine option, because that is what they lacked. If you remember, in the game against England, they just kept going back to Usman Tariq whenever they needed a wicket, and they didn't have any other genuine strike bowler other than him in
yeah.
the middle overs. So they would like to have that option and still have a very good batting.
Yeah, so bat first, score 175 plus, and then get Nisanka out in the first few overs, because I think he's the only threat. Other than him, Sri Lanka have not really looked that good. So if you get Nisanka, then there's a fair chance.
Yeah, I think it is worth talking about Sri Lanka themselves, because they came into the Super 8s with a lot of hopes, I would say.
Yeah,
And then they kind of capitulated versus England, where they had to chase just 150, and had a weird strategy where they went after every single ball and got bowled out for 90 odd. And then against New Zealand, they had New Zealand at 80 for 7, and then let Santner and McConchie get them to 170 from there, and then absolutely kind of just give out or not even try to chase. And at one stage, they were 9 overs 30 for 2 in a T20 chasing 170. That is absolutely unacceptable. And then they kind of bowed out. I saw the crowd booing their own players and half of them leaving early, so it wasn't a good scene. So they either win this game against Pakistan and kind of regain some lost territory, or they lose this by a big enough margin and get to host another game or two in the World Cup. So they have a choice to make in that aspect. But I would hope that they don't fall in the middle. So neither do they win
Yeah.
or neither do they lose big enough. So that would just mean that Sri Lanka lose, Pakistan don't gain, and you just end up
The
in
fans
a
also
sticky
lose.
situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually kind of recall from one of our previous podcasts. I think this was after the midway of the league stage, where I was hyping Sri Lanka up, and I remember you saying that the first two wins that they got, it was kind of an illusion, and they hadn't played the good teams. And in the last week's podcast, I think I had predicted Sri Lanka to qualify, and you still maintained the same opinion. And now I can see why it was so, because in terms of the competitiveness, obviously they lost two of their best bowlers, but after that they've basically looked like a completely different side. And the fact that they lost to Zimbabwe in the group stage was an indication, but I couldn't see that back then.
Yeah, I think that happened after a podcast, but yeah, before the last week's podcast.
Yeah,
So they won against Ireland in the first game, then Oman, then Australia, and
yeah,
were sitting on a very, very high hill. And then they lost to Zimbabwe, England, New Zealand, and just bowed out of the tournament, because you can't win a World Cup when you lose three on the bounce, especially in this format. So I think they weren't even close to being favorites at the start. If anyone had followed them, they were beaten by England in their own backyard 3-0, and they had a very poor Asia Cup as well, if you remember. So there's not much hope from them, but I think they still kind of did well to finish ahead of Australia. So that's a positive.
yeah.
But I think the crowd won't be too happy with them.
Yep, that's true. So now that we have discussed most of the Super 8s, let's take a look at the individual performers that have impressed you the most. So, who has been one particular batter or bowler who has kind of affected matches and changed the results? And then this could be across all the teams. Which one player has impressed you the most over the past week?
I think in terms of batting, I would actually say Brian Bennett across the tournament, because he's every time he scored, there have been critics finding out some flaws. Maybe he didn't play against the best team, he didn't
Yeah,
bat fast enough, and he's gone on to prove them wrong with each and every knock. He didn't get going in the game against West Indies, and that's the only game he got out in this entire tournament, which is unbelievable. And
yeah,
for me, the final nail in the coffin was his knocking against India, and the way he batted against Bumrah and Varun Chakravarti, because that isn't easy. However easy the pitch was, it takes a lot of quality to tackle them. And the way I think he hit a six against Bumrah as well, and that was his first six of the tournament.
oh,
And then he went on to hit five more sixes in the game. So I think he has passed the eye test for me. he had been on my radar for a while, but now that he's done it against top bowling attacks in conditions unfamiliar to him, I think he's going to be a future star.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the overall batting stats, and he's on the second spot. He's played the same number of innings as the top player, Sahibzada Farhan, and it's only 6 runs short. And his average is 277, like you mentioned, because he's been dismissed only once. He's got 350s in those 5 innings as well, so that's incredible. And was he your player to watch out for in our preview podcast that we did at the start?
Yeah, from Zimbabwe, I had picked him, and also picked Sikandar Raza. And I remember saying that if Zimbabwe managed to go close against Sri Lanka or Australia, it will be because of Raza, and they actually defeated both of them. So I think they've hugely overachieved in this tournament. And for all the people who are saying that Australia qualifying would have been better for the tournament, I feel Zimbabwe qualifying is the better uh, result for this tournament, because it shows that uh, how diverse the tournament is. And considering Zimbabwe didn't qualify due to rain or any of those results, they actually defeated all of their opponents, shows
Yeah.
that they are the ones who deserve to be here, and makes no sense to belittle them just because they couldn't show up against three very good teams in conditions they haven't played in over 20 years. So this was their first international game in India since 2002. So you have to celebrate the fact that they reached here, and then also accept that it wasn't going to be easy for them to compete, and both of those statements can be true.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that if people are saying that Zimbabwe are not playing well, then you should look at Sri Lanka, because they have also lost all of their games in the Super 8s, and they have also lost to Zimbabwe themselves in the groups. So you have to give it to Zimbabwe that they are at least better than Sri Lanka, because they've at least taken teams closer than what Sri Lanka have managed. But yeah, as you mentioned, Brian Bennett, he's done fantastic. For me, I think one player that I was quite impressed with was Davor Brevis and also David Miller. And this is purely because of their performance versus India, because they had lost three quick wickets. I think they were 20 for 3, if I'm not wrong. And after that, the game was basically done, because you could see, the likes of Chakravarti, uh, Akshar. No, I think Akshar wasn't playing, but Sundar Chakravarti was still yet to come into the attack. And even before that, India had picked 3 wickets. But I think credit to Miller and Brevis, they just didn't consolidate, they also kept scoring runs, which meant that South Africa got to 180. So I'm extremely impressed with Brevis, especially because I think this is his first major tournament where he's being hyped, and he's a player that people are looking up to. Miller has obviously been playing cricket for so many years, but for him as well, it was a bit of a comeback and a revenge, because it was him and his catch that decided the World Cup last time out in 2024. So it's a nice moment for Miller and Brevis, both of them.
Yeah, I think they had a coming of in age innings, a partnership out there. Uh, in terms of bowling, I would actually go on and say Lungi Ngidi for me has been very good across the tournament, though he has the advantage of playing in the same conditions over and over again, and those conditions happen to suit his style of bowling. But then to actually make use and utilize those conditions also is an art, and he's done it really well. Uh, I think his slower balls are very hard to pick right now, and he's one of
Yeah.
the best or the most deceptive bowlers in world cricket right now. He did mention that DJ Bravo was an inspiration, and you can see that
Yeah.
because the way he releases his slower balls, he snaps his wrist at the very end So it's very, very hard to pick, and especially in the phases he bowls, when the batter is trying to hit you, it makes it even harder. And he's done it over and over again, be it day games, night games, morning games, while
Yeah,
defending, while bowling first. So he's really proven to be a game changer, and it only baffles me how RCB let go of him,
yeah,
because their they had laid their hands on uh, an unmined gold stack, and they left him before utilizing it.
yeah. I think these are just RCB things. Similarly, Punjab also let go of Josh Inglis. So no matter how good these teams are, they still have a bit of their old self in them. But that's a matter of joke. By the way, I'm looking at the bowling stats now. Do you know who's the top wicket taker in this tournament? Because it's very surprising.
I think I have a measure of that. It's Shadley Yuan Shalquick.
Yeah, he's picked up
He got
13 wickets.
identical figures of 4 for 25 against both India and Pakistan.
Okay. Yeah, that's incredible. And like you said, Lungi Angidi, he's not far behind. He's only 2 wickets behind. And his economy has been impressive, just 6.8. Uh, in terms of bowling, I think I haven't really watched a lot of the games to comment on this, but I think I would be impressed with Jasprit Bumrah and his performance against South Africa. I know we lost that match, but he looked in top form, and I think he picked up. It was a coincidence, but all the wickets he picked up were the players who will be playing alongside him in the IPL next time in about a month. So that was a nice coincidence. I think he picked up Rickleton, de Kock, and Bosch, if I'm not wrong. So that was quite a funny coincidence.
Yeah, I think Bumrah just fails to prove the theory that whenever he performs, India loses wrong, because it has got nothing to do with his performances, but it just seems to be that he isn't able to win India games on his own anymore. And I'm absolutely not blaming him for the loss, but it's weird how over the years such occurrences have only increased. So I hope the team also steps up when he steps up, because one thing I've noticed, which can be an uncanny coincidence, is that Arshdeep Singh never tends to do well whenever Bumrah does well, and I think he just likes being the leader of the attack more than complimenting Bumrah nowadays. So you
Yeah,
see that even against Zimbabwe, it was him who performed when Bumrah wasn't really there to deliver. Though Bumrah bowled 3 overs, none for 21, but it was Arshdeep who got 3 wickets and was kind of leading the bowling that day. So it's something that I need to kind of look around at if
yeah.
that's actually the case.
And now that you say this, it's very similar in Test cricket, where I think Mohammad Siraj goes through something similar, where if Bumrah is playing and being the lead bowler, then Siraj always or usually has an off day. And the moment Bumrah is rested, Siraj turns into a beast and picks wickets left, right, and centre. So it's and in both cases Bumrah is being involved, so you never know. There could be something over here.
Yeah, in England last year, I remember the 5 tests that India played. A lot of things were being said that Bumrah will be playing only 3 tests, and those are the only three that India can possibly win. And he did end up playing the 3 tests, and those 3 were the ones that India didn't win, and the 2 that he rested were the only ones that they won, which is quite remarkable. Though you can't really bring in a relation to that yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's nothing to do with him.
Yeah, this is just coincidence because there have been matches like the last World Cup, the match against Pakistan, and also the final, where if Bumrah wasn't playing, I don't think we would have won either of those games. So he's an invaluable asset. Uh,
Yeah.
to round off the podcast, let's have quick predictions now from both of us. Two teams have already mostly qualified in the top spot, unless Zimbabwe do something incredible. But who do you think will be the other two teams to join them?
Okay, so I feel that India will defeat West Indies in Kolkata, and it's difficult to say, but I would still stick with New Zealand qualifying from Group 2. So my semi-finals would be India versus England at the Wankhede and South Africa versus New Zealand in Kolkata. So that would be my prediction. And to take it forward from there, uh, I would say India will defeat England and South Africa will defeat New Zealand, and we'll have a repeat of the last final.
That's quite a long set of predictions, but I can clearly see some logic. I think the match against West Indies, it's going to be very tricky. I think two things might happen. The first one is that India will win comprehensively, or the second thing is that India will lose comprehensively. I don't see a close game possible. If West Indies bat first and outbat us and score 200 runs or more, I think it's very difficult for India to win that match. So I think the best way to put it is whoever wins the toss will bat first and win the match. But if you asked this to me a few weeks back, I think I would have said India. So I'll go with that. But I'm not quite sure. I'm not 100% sure. From the other side, I think New Zealand will qualify. It's 60 plus runs is too much for Pakistan right now. So it will be South Africa, New Zealand, which is a shame because they have played together in the group stage before. At least it's a different venue, which makes it a bit interesting. And I think South Africa will win that match. And the second semi, it will be either England versus India or England versus West Indies. And if it's India, then I think India makes it through. But if it's West Indies, then England will make it through to the final. Ideally, I would have loved for South Africa and New Zealand to play the final so that we get a new winner. But if not, and looking at the trend of this year, defending or past champions are winning tournaments again. So then it could be India who could. If they make it to the final, then it's very tough to beat them.
Yeah, luckily we'll be back before the final is actually played. So I think the final is on Sunday and the second semi-final is on Thursday. So we have got
Yeah,
a couple of days to cover up and we will be back. But I would just like to say one thing. India, I think in the remaining 3 games for India, I have a very strong feeling that Tilak Verma is going to play a big role in one of the games, and I think he will redeem himself after an initial blip, and I don't know why, but I feel that it's going to continue into the IPL, and he's going to have one of his best years. I don't know why I'm going overboard, but I feel that something very good is going to happen with Tilak Verma very soon. So
that's
that
the
is my
best thing
prediction.
we could have said to an MI fan. Because I'm actually very happy and excited because if you look at all the MI players, you see Will Jacks, you see Rickleton, you see Dicock, Rutherford, Bosch to an extent. They have been playing some excellent cricket. So it's looking good. Just one follow-up question that I remembered that I want to ask you is about India's batting order. Do you feel that this is the right batting order that we should go ahead with, or do you think they'll go back to playing Ishan Kishan and Abhishek at the top and bring back Rinku Singh if he's available for the next game?
I feel Rinku Singh is in a bit of trouble.
Yeah.
It was very weird to see that he had gone back home to meet his father who was in the hospital, and they kind of called him back or he came back, whatever. But he came back and then he was not played, and while he was with the team, his father passed away. So I don't know if it was the right call to call him back or for him to come back. But in such state of mind, I don't know if they will give him a chance. Uh, I think if he does play, he can kind of channel that into some kind of a magical performance, but it is totally a personal call at this stage.
Yeah, yeah,
And I don't think India will lose on out on much, considering it clicked for them, the Sanju Samson Abhishek combo, because you need some stability at the top, and India have had some of the worst opening partnerships in this World Cup. So if Sanju Samson can get them off to a start, and Abhishek can then take some time, and then you have another explosive batter at 3 in Ishan Kishan, and that also frees up Tilak Varma to kind of play the floater role that he used to play at MI, because
yeah.
at this stage it feels like he's more comfortable doing that than coming in at 3 every game. So I think if they have figured this out, maybe stick with it until and unless they really want Rinku Singh to play. uh, I feel they will stick with this combo.
Yeah, I also agree. So I don't know why, but I feel Sanju Samson brings that lucky charm with him because whenever he is played, first of all, the opening pair has always looked good, and India have also looked good. So they should continue with this batting order. The only issue is Tilak Verma is then pushed down all the way to number 5 and sometimes number 6, like we saw against Zimbabwe. So I think that's something you have to live with. You can't accommodate all
Yeah.
these players in their correct positions. So yeah, I think they will stick to the same batting lineup.
Yeah, and you still have got Akshay Patel to bring in whenever needed at the top. So
Yeah, yeah,
I don't feel they're short on good quality batters, anyways.
yeah. So I think everything has been discussed. It's a two of the three upcoming games are going to be incredibly exciting, and then obviously you'll have the two semi-finals, and then we'll hopefully come back next week with our predictions for the final. It's going to be. I'm actually very hyped for these last few matches because it's very uncertain. There are a couple of teams that are looking really good, and a couple that have suddenly found form. So it's very exciting as a fan.
Yeah, and finally we have some high stake cricket, and winning or losing actually matters in these games,
Yeah.
and not those fake knockouts for the Super 8s where you'll anyways get another chance. So I think this is going to be the peak of this World Cup.
Yeah, so that's it for now. What are your final thoughts before we call it a day?
I think I'm hoping for a few thrillers here and there in the remaining games, and I would hope that the LSG jersey that I saw today is the worst thing I've seen all week, and nothing goes beyond that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I catch the colors because from one angle it looks like purple and orange, but then I saw a photo that Pant shared, and in that it looked blue and red. So I don't know what the actual color combination is, but it looks more like a soccer jersey, not a cricket jersey. And the first impression that I got from it was the the outfit that the three main protagonists in Fir Hera Fairy 2 had during one of the scenes where they were dressed as jokers. It looks straight out of a circus, but I think we'll get used to this, hopefully.
Yeah, so what my sources tell me is that they wanted to go with their iconic maroon colored jersey, but you have got some regulations in IPL which I don't get, and you can't use certain colors. So instead of going with something else, they decided to kind of change the saturation of that and make it into a brighter red, which kind of kills the purpose because it doesn't even resemble their own iconic colors. Neither are they good looking. So
Yeah,
I don't get it, but I feel that maroon should have been allowed by IPL because it's got nothing to do. You're playing with a white ball anyways, so
Yeah,
it just doesn't make sense. But
at least we have one less blue jersey. Although
yeah,
they are still blue, but at least a little different. So that's the only positive that we can think of. And it's going to be sad to see players like Aiden Markram, Mitch Marsh, Rishabh Pant play in that jersey. I actually saw a shot or a clip that they released where Markram he got access to the jersey before everyone, and his reaction was absolutely gold because you could see that he wasn't quite sure, but at the same time he had to stay a little positive, and he just said that it's very different. So now we realize what he meant. But anyway, I
the
think
logo
teams,
itself is laughable, and to pair that
yeah,
up with such a jersey, I don't get it.
yeah, I think other teams are also going to release jerseys soon, and hopefully we can then do a jersey review as well. But that's for later. Uh, this is still the World Cup, and we'll catch you next week.
Yes, so until next week and throughout the week, you will be getting a lot of cricket and F1 content. So until next week, here are we signing off.